that countdown, for whatever reason, reminded me of like the bombs countdown, which reminded me of yesterday. I was at Frankfort, Kentucky, and we was getting gas on the way home. Like we had just left Frankfort, and as we was getting gas, like these Kentucky State Trooper squad cars came out of nowhere, lights and sirens blaring, blocked off traffic, and like over 20 state police cars just started speeding towards the Capitol. And it was really crazy. And I don't know what happened. There was nothing about it on the news either. So I don't know if it was some kind of drill. I don't know if like something happened, if like there was a threat against like a state politician and they sprung into action and they're not going to talk about it because that's like an operation, that's like an OPSEC thing. But that was crazy. Before I even begin, let me lay out the rules of the court here. And I will base off what I'm about to say off of what's already written in the information tab of the High Court of Thalmoria. So all evidence the prosecution is going to use, along with the names of witnesses, they've already turned that over. That's called discovery, and that's something that happens in, I know, at least American courts and criminal proceedings. I imagine it happens in some other places, but I definitely know it's an American thing. Hearsay is not admissible. So what that means is if a witness comes on and says, yes, John Smith said Borg is an evil cheater, well, that doesn't matter. Claims have to be firsthand. The jury can only vote guilty or not guilty on every charge. There are no Alfred pleads or no contests. Guilty or not guilty. And there's no jury nullification either. There's no plea deals at all. I don't even know why I said that earlier. Jury members, listen up. This is very important. The accused is presumed innocent. And to be guilty, the prosecution must prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, especially because with the rules here, the prosecutors get to draft their own charges, which they have already done. So presume Borg is innocent, and you can only find him guilty on a charge if you feel and think that the prosecution has proven that charge beyond a reasonable doubt. And jurors, this is also important. Throughout the whole trial, really starting now, the only text channels you can have open is deliberations and evidence, and maybe court chat. Do not look at the public chat. Do not look at the public chat. Do not look at DMs. If Discord is open and you are using it, only look in evidence, deliberations, and court chat. Avoid public chats. That is to stop you from being swayed mid-trial by some random comment from some random nobody. Only view those three channels: evidence, deliberations, court chat. And that's basically it for the rules. The only thing that's new from the past trial is jurors have to view those specific rooms during the trial. Reinhold asks, so is this a meme trial? This is like an 80% serious trial. It's a fun thing being done for fun, but part of the fun is that it's taken somewhat seriously. So it's not a meme, but it's also not like an official super serious thing. It's in the middle somewhere. It's hard to explain, actually. The metaphysics of the High Court of Thalmoria are actually a little complicated to decipher. Okay, I think we're pretty much ready to begin. Let me also post this real quick. I'm posting something. Pardon my silence. I was just uploading an image in court. I made a nice little graphic for the trial. I'm very proud of it. I like to show off my art. Hannah drinks bourbon base. Bourbon is my drink of choice. I am particularly a fan of 1792 and Woodford Reserve. Jerry the Blue says the problem is that the Australian government will actually arrest Borg if you find him guilty. All right. So, I think we're pretty much ready to begin. All right, Prefontaine, why don't you go ahead and give your opening statements?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Honorable Judge Thalmore, I'm here today to tell you a tale of a man who seemingly is here to help the game, but to get to where he is, had to exploit circumstances, had to make it seem like other people were committing the crimes he was trying to cover them up, and over the years made his technology integral to the game so he would be able to access multiple accounts with minor changes to his bot and be able to influence other nations from Discord itself. This is in violation of many laws that govern our game. I'm going to go through the counts that we have against the defendant and explain where they come from. So, starting with the first count, obstruction of justice. Obstruction of justice happens when, through force or any other independent illegal act, destroying physical evidence, lying to police, committing perjury in court, all these things constitute obstruction of justice. And changing or destroying physical evidence is specifically what we're going to be talking about with this. It's very obvious and very clear. On more than one occasion, the defendant removed logs, deleted physical evidence to hide his crimes. Second, we have fraud. So, what fraud has a bearing on this case is if a person intends to defraud another, they assume the identity of that other person by presenting themselves as that person. What that means in politics and war is a person's nation is their identity. So, defrauding someone is assuming their identity. Logging into their nation can constitute pretending to be that person, presenting themselves as that person, acting like them, using personal identifying information, and obtaining some portion of their property or control of their nation. And the defendant will be very clearly made guilty of that count. Third, we have criminal conspiracy. Specific note with criminal conspiracy is it requires the involving of planning of any crime with two or more people. It doesn't matter if that crime is carried out, you are guilty of conspiracy if you simply plan it. And we can show that the defendant was in communication with multiple people that planned to do this act, planned to defraud people, planned to move illicit funds, move exploited funds from nation to nation. The defendant is very guilty of this crime as well. Fourth, we have blackmail. Important thing with blackmail, it's also known as extortion. If you compel someone or if you intimidate them, frighten or coerce them to giving you their property, or fear that they're going to withhold your property from you under duress, you have satisfied the legal definition of being extorted or blackmailed. All you need is a reasonable threat under duress. And that happened with one of the witnesses we'll be calling today. Next, we have money laundering. We have evidence that the defendant assisted with transferring illicit funds from NPO, which no one is denying existed, to other nations, such as allegedly Mythic and Eric, who is controlling an offshore account for NPO and other networks. He was transferring funds from illegal sources. That is the definition of money laundering. Specifically with the game rules, Count 6 involves violation of Game Rule 2, multiple nations on the same network. Specifically, what we're concerned with here is that there is no limit on the number of nations that can play per network, so long as each nation is owned and controlled by a separate individual. What that means is I cannot access your account to help you out while you're on vacation or whatever. I cannot play as your nation because that nation is now being owned and controlled by multiple people. That is a very clear violation. And a bot that will allow you to log in to another player to even something as seemingly harmless as changing alliance permissions is against the rules. Now, I know you might be concerned that there are bots that do interact with the game that allow for nations from Discord to control in-game actions. The game rules are very clear about where this is allowed to happen. They're very clearly spelled out in automated trading and automated banking what is and what is not allowed to happen from bot control. What is not talked about is anything that would be allowed where someone can log in and change permission sets to another nation, specifically with regards to alliance leadership roles. That nowhere has any explicit mention that is allowed, so it falls under other game automation. And any use of a script, bot, macro, and other automated form of gameplay is prohibited. These exclude multiple things: baseball, war declarations, war attack, espionage, as examples. You cannot use automation for these. You cannot use bots, you cannot use scripts, you cannot use macros, or any other form of automated gameplay. And we have very clear evidence that this happened from Borg himself. Lastly, we have exploit abuse. So this one's a little bit more broad. The rule exists with wiggle room, and that's largely to determine the punishment for the game administrator. But it notes players have an obligation to report the known use of a bug. We have logs that show Borg facilitating the transfer of tens of billions in resources. Let's ignore the 150 billion that has been thrown out in the press prior to this trial. Ignore that number. I want to focus on the resources. One of those resources was alleged to be 9 million steel. And the sources of this steel come into question. Were they from raiding from Mythic? Because that's where the transfer individual thought they might have been from. Or were they from this illegal source? For someone to have to raid 9 million steel, let's say they were getting lucky and taking 10% of the steel from other nations, that is 90 million steel they would have had to hit from nations in raiding. 2 years ago, there was 50 million steel in the game. How would they have raided that amount? How was 9 million steel moving around? There's 10 million gas moving around. How were these things happening? They had to come from an exploit. And they were moving through Borg's hands. You can argue that there's no hard evidence that he was involved in it, in the creation of it, but he was definitely involved in the handling of it, the movement of it, the facilitating of its existence, spreading it around to other players. This is an exploit of the abuse. He knew these funds were exploited. He knew they weren't legitimate, and he continued to have them move through the game. Suddenly, when the heat came on, Borg flipped the script, pinned it on another man, and used that to get himself close to the game administrator, and continued to do so over years, to the point where his bot is now integrated into many channels, many servers, many nations. And it's at the point where he has the potential to, apparently through very brief law changes to his bot that allegedly have protections against this, but if he can change them, clearly they don't have protections from him, where he can now log into these other nations. My opening statement rests.
As a reminder to anyone, if you want to review the charges, you may do so in the current case tab under the High Court of Thalmoria category. Decagon, I believe you are up now. What is your opening statement?
Yes, hello. So, with our appreciation, the defense as well as the defendant welcome all the court officials, the jurors, and the witnesses. As Prefontaine has went over them, we are all familiar with the charges, the allegations, accusations, and the seemingly, I would almost put it as defamatory personification that has plagued Borg for far too long. I want to make it clear that we are not trying to persuade, dissuade, discredit, or spin any piece of evidence, testimony, firsthand narratives, or any part of the prosecution's case as a whole. But what the defense has been focused on is trying to find the truth that is evident beyond a reasonable doubt. And I want to make it clear that throughout the years, Borg has been credited by many, probably a lot of people that are listening in, maybe some of the jury, maybe even some of the court officials themselves. But he has been credited by Alex and many other people as being, I would say, almost a beacon amongst our community. I don't think there's many people here that would say that he has been anything less than helpful, especially when it comes to micro alliances that have the lack of ability to pursue anyone who has the ability to code a bot. And I think we all are aware of how useful or beneficial bots can be. So we do feel that the charges against the defendant really don't have much backing, validity, and I don't think that there is much ground once everyone hears all of the evidence and discovery that the prosecution has that can be linked to the defendant and will show beyond a reasonable doubt that he is guilty of really any of these charges. And I want to emphasize that we are looking for beyond a reasonable doubt. And with that, my opening statement is done.
All right, so Prefontaine. Well, I mean, you're going, yeah. The prosecution gets to start presenting their evidence and witnesses first. But I'm trying to think how I want to best go about it. What I'm thinking is maybe we'll do like Prefontaine can post a piece of evidence. I think there's like 14 exhibits or so, and then I'll give the defense the opportunity to respond to it. Does that sound fair to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so Prefontaine, go ahead and in the evidence category, post your first exhibit and explain what it is, how it's relevant to the case.
So we're not bringing in witnesses at all for this. We're just going through the items one by one.
I was thinking that we could do witnesses after all of your exhibits.
All right, which channel do you want them in? Evidence?
Yes. Post your first exhibit, screenshot file, whatever it is.
Wasn't quite ready for this. They're not saved in an easy spot to transfer. Just give me a second. Unless the bailiff would like to post them.
Unless the bailiff. Zephyr posted a copy of Discovery into Evidence, which is very good, actually. Easy to refer to it.
All right. So this first piece of evidence, marked item 1, are the one of the original screen caps from the original post that started all of this, where you can see Borg stating, "Okay, I hacked in 150 billion and framed NPO." He's having a conversation with multiple people, one of which being Spanky.
Okay. Um,
Do you
Okay.
want someone
I
else
think
to give their
item
reply, or-
1 and item 2 are very yeah, I think they kind of go hand in hand. What's item 3 exactly?
The important element
The-
in item 2
the
though, is that you can see there are deleted logs. They have been removed from the conversation, what Borg was saying.
Yes. And there's item 3. The format of responding to each individual exhibit, that doesn't seem to really work for this.
The exhibits are
So
here
Ziggs
to
and the exhibits are here
to let me bring up for evidence when questioning my witnesses.
Got it.
There is one bit that I can just talk about. Items 4 and 4A. This is more of just context. As you can see in the log Zig posted, there's some quotes of conversation that use a different handle, Danzig, and Danzig items 4 and 4A are using to establish that Danzig is in fact Borg, so that is Borg speaking.
I would like to point out that the defense does acknowledge that. We are aware, and we do, like I said, we do acknowledge that.
And so, Prefontaine, explain the relevance of the deleted logs, because I think that was something that a lot of people focused on. Explain that once more, go into detail, and then I want to hear what the defense has to say about what you have to say about it.
Well, right there, that's clear evidence of destroying physical evidence. I know a lot of people fall on one side or the other with the deletion of logs. Why would you do it if you weren't guilty, if you didn't have something to hide? And there definitely is something questionable there in the motivation. You could argue it was for fear of political ramifications in game. You can argue that it was to cover up a crime, but irregardless, these logs are evidence, and they have been tampered with, and evidence has been destroyed, which constitutes obstruction of justice.
Deacon Gun, what do you have to say in response?
I would say, yeah, Borg definitely did delete a sliver of this, what is now known as like the great leaked group chat between Spanky, Borg, and Riddler. What I'd like to point out more specifically, though, I'm assuming this is in regards to the obstruction of justice charge. What I want to point out is that he did indeed delete it. There's no denying that. Everyone can see it, plain as day. I am sort of curious as to why nobody has asked what those deleted sections stated, but more importantly, I'm curious as to why no one asked, did he stop there? Because the answer is actually no. The logs that we've been looking at were procured by Jaden upon his arrival and invitation into that group chat. Borg didn't just delete that out of some fear or safety net. He deleted everything out of fear of having OPSEC information get leaked into the public that would not only affect him, but others as well. I think if we were to look at the group chat now, which I mean, no one has even inquired about it, the group chat is completely devoid of any of Borg's messages. So I think trying to insinuate that only that section was deleted in regards to hiding something is not the angle to look at this. We're just seeing the group chat moments after Borg initiated this movement. Thanks to Jaden. I think Jaden, Spanky, anyone else who's in this group chat now, if they'd be willing to testify, they would say that, there's not really anything from Borg stated in that group chat now. So I would, like, on top of that, did Borg know that he was facing charges at that time? I think the answer is no. So it's hard to obstruct justice when there's no charges pending against you to begin with.
The prosecution would argue that simply because you hoped not to get caught committing a crime does not mean you are innocent from that crime.
Well, in this case, I would almost push anyone that was involved in that group chat to their best recollection to possibly state what they recall from that section of deleted group chat, if they'd be willing to.
It's a good thing the prosecution will be calling at least one member of that group chat.
I think, Prefontaine, is there anything else from the discovery that stands on its own pretty well? Or would it be best to just go ahead and move on to witnesses?
If it pleases the court, we in item 3 there is a section of quoted text. There has been some concern from my support staff about the argument of legitimacy. I do have screen capped versions of that text as well, if it would please the court to have that is instead of the text copy in case there is a question of legitimacy.
Does the defense challenge the authenticity of those exhibits?
Of which item specifically?
The quoted text in item 3. It's the large box with no colored names in front.
Yes, the black box with the Discord formatting that unfortunately doesn't show any direct screenshot of the defendant having any form of communication with the what I assume would be potential witnesses. I would say that we actually do have some sense of how legitimate is this. If it was very legitimate, we would assume that there would be some kind of visual screenshot as the rest of the item is exhibited through. But for some reason, this is only via Discord formatting. And while we would like to assume that the parties involved in this screenshot aren't being illegitimate, it's really hard to say beyond a reasonable doubt that it is factual.
Judge, would you allow me to submit the screenshotted version of that text?
Yes. You may just post into evidence there. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
And as you
Is
can
that
see
it?
there, it has
And as you can
text from Borg. Once
I
again.
do acknowledge that the handle is Borg. For all intents and purposes, we're not gonna as if somebody mimicked the name, but we do point out that it's potentially plausible.
That they went back to 2020 and created a fake Borg account, and then
Like I said, we're not gonna act as if we're just saying that's plausible. We would actually like to counter question the prosecution in regards to what this screenshot actually is stating. What does it show that is actually tying any form of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt to the defendant? What are we seeing here? Because the defense doesn't see anything incriminating.
it's involved from the conversation between Eric and Borg about where the funds that were transferred to his bank came from, stating that it needs to be up on the up and up, and when apparently it was not, it was sent back because it was not on the up and up because it made him uncomfortable. And then they start talking about the amounts in another piece of evidence.
So could the defense ask, who is Eric the Red? And is he a former member of this gang?
Yes, he is.
He still plays to this day?
No, he does not.
Would you mind providing the detail as to all the witnesses and stand buyers? Who was Eric the Red back on February 12th of 2020?
His specific role in the game, I do not know. What I do know about him is he was the one accused of exploiting the game and one of the people who was banned from NPO during the illicit funds scandal.
I'd like to mutually reach out and say that I'm aware that Borg was also part of NPO, but it's also my assumption and understanding that Borg only held a member role in this alliance where most of the I mean, most of Eric the Red in particular was banned.
Objection,
And
hearsay. We're hearing this from the lawyer rather than the witness. This is testimony that should be provided from a witness, not secondhand.
where's the witness?
He's yours to call.
I want Eric the Red.
No, you said Borg. You're talking about on behalf of Borg. That's my objection.
Sure.
You're talking for Borg.
Borg, if you would mind, could you clarify on your position in MPO? Specifically during this time frame when
Objection.
there
The
were
prosecution hasn't had a chance to present its case, and the defense is already trying to present its case.
I do think we're getting a bit off track here. Yeah.
I'm trying to establish that Borg did not have the ability to interfere with what could potentially be considered exploits. That's
So
where the defense is
you're
going.
trying to present a defense right now
Absolutely, yeah.
during the prosecution phase.
Yeah.
Objection.
I think the objection is sustained. The format of having the one side rebut the individual arguments of the other, I don't think it's working out very well. Prefontaine, what else do you have?
The prosecution.
It seems like a lot of your case.
The prosecutor will make a call.
Oh, who?
Spanky.
Okay. How can I get Spanky? Oh, I should just give him perms in statements. That would be the easiest thing. Permissions, add a person. Okay. Okay, Spanky, you can now send messages in the statements channel for the High Court of Thalmoya. Say hi in there so I know that shit is working like it should.
Can my witness speak as well, or to answer questions, or we have to do this through text?
Speaking would be better than text. For some reason, I was under the impression that he couldn't.
Lysander is
voice
my witness.
chat.
That it has to be typing.
Repeat that one more time.
Lysander is the witness that needs to be typing. Mars and Spanky should be able to speak. They're called.
Got it. Okay, so yeah, go ahead and begin your direct examination of Spanky.
Spanky, can you just speak so we can make sure we can hear you clearly?
Loud and clear.
Okay, so you're the one who first brought this evidence forward, correct?
Correct.
You created the thread. You compiled a few of the screenshots. I'd like to specifically talk about the first screenshot in evidence, the one where Borg makes the claim that he hacked 150 billion and framed NPO. Can you tell me a little bit about what was going on in this conversation beyond what's just in the screenshot?
So during that time, we were just like talking. I was getting to know Borg. I was working with him a lot at the time. And I was just, like, everyone knows me for schemy fuckery. And I was trying to see what kind of schemy fuckery Borg was up to. And so I inquired.
So when you guys were sharing tales of whatever schemy fuckery you're talking about, where in the conversation did this claim about the 150 billion being framed NPO come up?
Almost immediately.
Did you feel at the time it was a joke? Was that your impression from the conversation prior?
I did halfway feel it was a joke, which is why I only screenshotted the first bit of it. But then as the conversation dragged on for a longer period of time, I realized that it was not a joke.
What made you feel that way?
When he started naming names of people and telling tales, it's slightly hazy to me, but the essence of it was that he framed Eric And part of it was Diana's idea.
Who's Diana?
Diana was a fellow friend of Borg's, to my understanding.
So you're saying he conspired with another player?
Correct.
So during this conversation, you made a statement in evidence item number 2. Towards the bottom, it says "Good cop, bad cop works like a charm." Do you remember what that comment was in reference to?
Not particularly. I want to say that was referring to Diana.
Okay, so the good cop was Borg, or the bad cop was Borg? Do you remember that?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. How long have you known Borg? You said this was your time getting to know him. These logs were dated in November.
I've known Borg since I'd say late June was my first interaction with him. Something around there.
And it wasn't until November you started to get to know him.
I mean, we had been working together for a while, but I mean, like, as far as getting to know the more personal things, no.
Clarification, was it June of this year? Or sorry, the previous year?
Yes, June of the previous year, yes.
Okay. So you started to get, you first got introduced to him in June. You started to make an effort to get to know him in November. Conversations of this alleged exploit, start happening. What made you wait until now or recently to bring this information forward?
I was worried that if I brought this information forward that is too IC of my alliance, that it would be held against me and my members.
So you say you were frightened that you would lose property, and you were concerned about that.
I was concerned that we would lose our alliance bank, our member deposits, and I was concerned that we would lose access to the raid bot which Borg had given us.
Do you know approximately how much funds you were at risk of losing from your belief?
At the time of 2 weeks ago, it was $40 billion, $20 billion in member deposits, and $20 billion in the alliance bank.
So definitely not a small amount of money.
Correct.
So you acted under fear of losing property, and you were concerned for all of your members' money and resources. Do you believe you felt you were under duress at that time?
Yeah, I would say so.
So you had this information in November. You came open about it somewhere in January, early February. What changed between November and February that made you want to come forward?
So when I took that screenshot, Borg did not at the time know I had it. And all the things that I was afraid of losing, such as the raid bot, our bank, etc., all those things were taken by Borg anyways. And so, I leaked it.
And did anything happen to you in game in retribution for this?
I mean, technically, we lost half of our alliance bank. I lost the raid bot, which, that's private property anyways, so that is what it is.
So the raid bot, did you ever have to pay any fees for it?
No.
Were you ever aware of a time where that bot required a payment to use, or a Borg-related bot required a payment to use?
To my knowledge, no bot that Borg has ever given out has ever required payment.
And how long have you been playing the game for?
I've been playing since 2015. On this account since 2017, 2018.
Okay. So I want to move on to the conversation about trying to get permissions changed for your alliance. Can you tell me a little bit about what happened in regards to your attempts to try to change leadership roles and what role Borg played in that?
So I was in vacation mode at the time, and my buddy Canyon had gone inactive. He was the former Emperor of Space Invaders. As 2IC, who was also in VM at the time, since he had quit playing the game, I found a need to take his place as soon as possible so that way we didn't have an inactive leader. Upon asking Borg to do this, he originally told me it was not possible, then told me it might be possible, and then proceeded to make it happen. So, yeah.
About how long did it take to go from it's impossible to it has happened?
According to him, it happened the same night that he claimed it was impossible. That said, though, I didn't find that out until the next day, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say 24 hours.
Not a very long amount of time to be able to access someone's account.
Not at all.
So you originally mentioned some conversation with Diana and Borg and being involved with NPO and scamming for 150 billion. Have you seen Pascal's apology letter?
Uh, is it in evidence?
Yeah, it's item 9. I can read it for everyone in the
Yeah,
call
I've
to be able
seen
to
it.
hear.
I've seen it. Yeah.
The important part is that there's a note here where the entire plan was executed by Borg. All I did was confirm if the resources had reached them. If you want to ban me from Mythic, cut all contacts. Please don't coop my stuff. Much of my balance was investments from Alpha Bank. Now people will remember me as a Cooper. So we've got Mythic being involved, according to this apology letter, and a claim that Borg was the mastermind behind the assault. Does this apology letter coincide with what you believe to be the information provided in that conversation?
It does, yes.
So we have now 2 instances that show Borg was identified by someone coming clean. They were not denying what had happened. They were simply pointing the finger at the mastermind with item 9 of the evidence. And now we have additional corroboration. Doesn't matter that it was years later. You know, criminals often like to revisit the scene of their crime or take some memento or brag about it or whatever. Now we have another instance where it's being brought up. It can be claimed that it's a joke, but now we've got 2 instances. Not one, twice this has happened. And other members have talked about how these resources were coming through Borg. We have the logs from Eric talking about how 8.88 million aluminum, 9 million steel, 8.1 million munitions, 10.12 million gas, and dang near 5 million uranium. Again, just highlighting the steel. If we look at 2 years ago, there was only 50 million steel in the game. To effectively raid 9 million steel in the best of times, you would need to be hitting 90 million worth of steel over time. Do you feel that the funds that Eric is talking about in this thread, in these screenshots that we've shown deleted evidence or deleted logs from Borg on, do you believe that is what he was referencing when he was talking about the 150 million or 150
That's
billion? Sorry,
that's 100% what he was referencing.
the prosecution rested this time.
Does the defense wish to cross-examine Spanky?
Indeed, we do. Spanky, how are you?
Fine and dandy.
All right, good to hear. So, is it reasonable to say that you and Borg throughout your tenure in the game, had a reasonably respectable relationship?
Through most of our experience, I'd say so, yes.
Would you ever say that you felt him as an equal as far as his role in Space Invaders, particularly?
I cannot say that I felt him as an equal, no.
Could you clarify more so on that?
Um, Borg would constantly attempt to puppeteer me, so it was sort of impossible to feel equal to somebody who would constantly, try to be better than you.
Hmm. Okay, so at no point you felt that it was his alliance overall, since there was the portion of him being the founder and Space Invaders being reliant on Raid, or would that not be true?
The alliance is his as far as the fact that he founded it, and the alliance is his as far as the fact that it relied on his bots to operate properly.
I'd like to know, at any point in time during this apparent worrisome relationship that you're now in with him, did you ever personally benefit from having a relationship with Borg?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be able to clarify on how you were able to benefit from having a relationship with Borg?
So Borg at the time when I left Space Invaders, it is every alliance that Borg has ever worked with since leaving Space Invaders, whether it be the Streets, Cataclysm, Divine Phoenix, which he's been working with well before Space Invaders. All these alliances which use Locutus, he has government access, and he uses that government access to and that trust that he builds with Locutus to get people that are friendly to him in positions of power.
So how have you personally benefited from that then?
He got me a position in Divine Phoenix.
Divine Phoenix. Okay.
As Foreign Affairs head and Foreign Affairs staff.
Objection.
And Space Invaders.
What is this relevant on anything involving Borg? My client is not under any sort of investigation here.
Your client is the one who is stating this. We didn't probe for this response.
So what's the relevance? I'm objecting based on.
I'm painting a picture to show the relationship between the defendant and one of the witnesses. There are more.
The objection is overruled.
There are more points.
The objection is overruled. You may continue, Decagon.
During this group chat leak that everyone has probably looked over in numerous regards, is the section that is deleted that references Borg, framing NPO supposedly, is that the only section of the group chat that is deleted, or is there more?
That is the only section of the group chat that Borg deleted.
Is there a way to be able to prove that?
I mean, you can read the group chat and look at the responses that he made to what I said, and it's pretty evident.
Okay, so at the current time, it's fair to state that that exact group chat has no more edits or deletions in regards to being as a piece of evidence.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Okay. I'd like to ask on a personal level, do you personally think that the deletion of the supposed, only those small amount of logs, do you personally think that that was a guilty enactment? Like Borg did that because he felt threatened in a way?
Objection, speculation. He can't know what Borg was thinking.
That's fair. That's fair.
Very well.
Yep, that's fair. So, to follow up with that, Spanky, has Space Invaders had any problems in regards to this looming threat that you described that you had over your head in regards to members' deposits or bank funds, has this been an actual problem or just a speculative problem?
I mean, we did just last week lose half of our bank.
How did that? Was this in regards to Borg, or is this in regards to other means?
This was in regards to Borg and Riddler and Zerg. All
Could you
three
clarify on
people,
how? Okay,
all
so
three people who are in that group chat.
so are you stating that this is some form of like unlawful act, or like what is this? Is the first I'm hearing about this. I always thought everything was moving along pretty clearly in regards to the bank, but now I'm hearing that half of it's missing.
I'm a witness. You know, I didn't level these charges. That one's for prosecution, man.
Okay, so okay, I'll move on then. Um, would you happen to know who were some of the first members to request their deposits from Borg after this public leak went out? And might it have been you?
It was definitely me. I was definitely the first one to do it. My
Did you have any
members were
problems with that?
being the first one to find out the information, and the fact that I did it as soon as I leaked it, and told my members all simultaneously, I do not find a problem with it now.
So what I'm saying is, did you have a actual problem getting the funds from Borg? Did he show resistance, or within reasonable time, did you and your members obtain the funds that were theirs?
We obtained our member deposits, but not our Alliance Bank.
Where is the Alliance Bank now then?
The Alliance Bank was split in two.
Okay, why? Is there any realistic reason why that would be that you know of?
The reason being that the Alliance was founded by Borg and Riddler, and they claimed to me at one point that they put $10 billion in to seed the Alliance.
Okay. So I'm going to motion that without any statement or any kind of like logistical evidence that shows that we just sort of move on past that. But I do want to point out that as far as the defense is aware, none of the members had any problem accessing or obtaining their funds. And ironically, we're under the impression that the witness, in all due respect, was one of the first ones to request their funds and get them. Does that sound like reasonably fair?
As far as personal deposits go, yes. As far as Alliance deposits go, no.
Okay. And that would be in regards to what the defendant and two others are claiming, that they sort of seeded into the initial growth of Space Invaders, more or less. I might have worded that poorly, but
Correct.
okay. So I do want to point out that the prosecution referenced an apology letter and mentioned the name. It says Pascal, and I don't know. This is sort of off topic. I don't know if that's the same. If it's Pascal from Eclipse, or if this is just a pseudonym for someone else. Doesn't really matter. I do want to point out, though, that you said 100% that you stand behind this statement that this person made, and I was sort of confused as to what this mastermind. Actually, let me find it. "Quote unquote" entire plan was executed by Borg. And as someone who stands behind that, what exactly do you think this entire plan, quote unquote, is or was?
So, to my understanding, Pascali is Diana,
Diana. Okay, understood.
and that is where the relevance comes from.
Okay, so as someone as a witness who's swearing, this, I 100% believe that this apology letter, that what's said in it is factual. Do you have any
Because
interpretation as to what this entire plan would be?
Well, Borg told me that when the money was hacked into the game or whatever, that he sent it to somebody, and essentially had somebody else admit to it or some shit like that. It's a little hazy. This was months ago.
Yeah, it's sort of wild to think that somebody would just take the hit on that. That's speculation. I can admit that, but it is a little odd to think that somebody would take the hit for a masterminded plan like this instead of doing what you're doing now, as well as the prosecution. I
As I said, good cop, bad cop works like a charm.
yeah, I do want to ask if Borg is able to type reasonably well in chat. Are you aware of what Borg's position in this former alliance may or may not have been, by any chance?
To my understanding, he was a member.
Okay. And I might be rusty on the P&W mechanics. I'm really not. But is a member able to transfer funds?
Generally not.
Generally not. Okay. And I'm assuming that the general term is being used in regards to him potentially having some kind of above member permissions, even though being a member.
I have no comment on that.
Me either. Okay. If there's one more thing, do you happen to personally know, since you stand behind Pascal's statement, do you know if the resources or the cash that were supposedly spawned into the tune of 150 billion, that's the hot word around town, do you know personally, or have anything showing that quote unquote exploited funds or hacked in, whatever you want to call it, was actually ever in Borg's hands?
Besides Borg himself telling me, no, I don't.
Okay. So if he sent you a message right now and said that he was just joking, would you disregard that, or?
I mean, considering we had like a 20 to 30 minute conversation on the topic, I'd say not.
Okay. Okay. With that, the defense will stand down.
I do have a cross.
Before we do that, Luna kept asking when can he come in. I will allow a member of the defense to also cross Spanky if he desires. Luna, did you want to?
I was just asking
Say again?
when I come in because I was confused on when I came in, so I was asking when do I come in because I didn't know. So
Whenever attorneys volunteer, and you have the lead and you have an assistant, I generally expect them to work together on the case. But when it comes to actually trying the case and questioning witnesses and speaking, I mean, I'm okay with it being one person doing it while the other one just kind of stands back and supports the other as much as they can. So you're not really expected to come in, Luna, unless you and Decca have already worked something out, or you find an opportunity to contribute in some way. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Okay, so Prefontaine, you wanted to do a redirect.
I'd like to point out real quick that the jurors are asking for a quick recess in deliberations.
I only have
are they?
redirect question.
I will allow a 10-minute recess. So recess begins now. It just went from 11:04 to 11:15. So Prefontaine, you will have to wait a few moments, I'm afraid.
Alrighty.
The redirect will be after the recess. So I would like to point out the trial has been going on for about an hour, and we are still on the prosecution's first witness. I anticipate this going past midnight, ladies and gentlemen. I think we might be here for a little while. But this has been very good. This is what I wanted. This is the kind of high-level work I wanted to see when I started doing these things. So there you go. Let me go ahead. Let me set an alarm. 11:15. So that way, too. But the break is over. Zephyr, do you need to be replaced? I already got a replacement. Just let me know what your status is. I hate to remove you, but internet problems is internet problems. It is what it is. Well, you can still listen. Well, I think you can maybe still listen. Well, it'll still be recorded at a minimum. I don't think it will be multi-day. I think we'll be done by tonight. Deliberations might go into tomorrow, but I'm going to try to see if we can get the cases rested by tonight. Recording is restarted. Very good. And CCT is a backup recording. Fucking based. Zephyr, we're restarting the trial now. If you have to go, then I need to know right now. Because if you have to go, I have to replace you. Sorry. So what's it going to be? Can you stay or are you going to have to go? I need to know right now. Fucking...
Oh, the judge said fuck.
Order in the court.
Oh, wait, no, I got a wooden table. What am I doing? All right, Zephyr, sorry, I'm kicking you off the jury. Bye. Leon, you are now a jury member. So you can now talk in the court chats now and stay out of public chat. And yes, we will have to vote for a new foreman. Again, Zephyr, sorry to remove you, but, you know, it is what it is. Okay, where we last left off, Prefontaine wanted to do a redirect on Spanky. I see no reason why we should hold any further. So, is Spanky unmuted?
You good to go, Spanky?
Yes.
Yep.
He is server unmuted. All right. You may continue, Prefontaine.
All right, you had mentioned that during Borg's time at NPO, you believed him to be just a member, correct?
To my knowledge, yes.
And at that time, did he have any sort of bot to your knowledge, or are you unsure?
I have no idea.
But if he had a bot that was similar in any regard to what he has, would that bot be able to interact? Would the current iteration of his bot be able to interact with a bank, regardless of membership rank?
Yes.
Objection. This is speculation based on near fantasy statements.
He doesn't know how the bot works now. A member.
He doesn't know if the bot was there to begin with, let alone its iterations or functionality back then.
Yeah, that's fine. I changed my question asking if it currently has that ability.
I was typing something. What was the line of questioning that Prefontaine asked? Prefontaine, what was it?
I asked if he was aware that Borg was a member at the time in NVO. He said he believes so. And I then changed my question mid-ask to ask if the current iteration of Borg's bot has the ability to interact with banks, even from a membership role.
And what's the basis of your challenge, Dikagon?
The question was actually if the bot existed back then in MPO, to which my knowledge is it's irrelevant. And furthermore, I believe that we're trying to drive down the line, or I should say the prosecution is trying to drive down the line of thought of if the current bot somehow had the same functionality as it did 2 years ago. And when Spanky said he's not sure if MPO even had Licutus back then, I'm really questioning why we're asking if a figurative functionality of a bot that he's not even sure if it exists in MPO is relevant.
I'll happily change my question.
Reword the question, Prefontaine.
So The current bot that Borg uses and that other people use, can it currently access membership banks from alliance banks from a membership role? Spanky's muted again.
From a membership role, I believe it's dependent on the alliance that you're in.
And if you're the owner of the bot, would that have any impact to your knowledge?
If you're the owner of the bot, it's irrelevant.
No further questions.
Decagon, would you be interested in doing a recross?
Yeah, I just have one question. Well, maybe one or two. Spanky, so in regards to Locutus, were you possibly in MPO during the time that Borg was in MPO?
I was not.
Okay, so it would be safe to assume that you sort of might not have any actual experience in regards to what technology they had, or at least I should say, I mean, did they even have Locutus? From my understanding, you weren't even sure if they used Locutus back then.
I wasn't a member of NPO. I don't know what their bot technology was back then.
Okay, so they might not have even used Locutus.
To my knowledge, Locutus didn't exist back then.
Okay. And would you think that it's safe, reasonably safe to assume that during the, 2-ish years since MPO's massive banning that Locutus has improved?
I mean, assuming that it was started 2 years ago, I imagine it has improved, as any developer would improve its product over the years.
Yeah, I would think so too. I do wonder if there was a difference in functionality in Locutus today. It almost begs the question of what was different, if it even existed in MPO back then. But unfortunately, it's my understanding that no one here can really answer that, can they?
Relevance, objection.
Yeah,
the objection is overruled. The objection's overruled. Spanky, answer the question.
I don't know what the question is. I don't know what the relevance is at all.
Oh, so the relevance is I'm trying to inquire as to if you're uncertain if Locutus even existed back then, let alone was part of MPO. I mean, is the functionality of Locutus now? I mean, how relevant is that? And that's more rhetorical, but I do want to defer to Luna. I believe Luna has a few questions.
I'll try my best, but yeah. So, Spanky, you are aware that Locutus was made back in Era 404, correct?
That is around when I'm aware it came into existence, yes.
And you believe Borg was behind this whole MPO exploit, correct, from the evidence?
From his own words, yes.
So, how do you believe that with Locutus not existing back in MPO, how do you believe this exploit could have,
I don't think Locutus had anything to do with the exploit. I'm pretty sure that currently the defense is trying to build the argument that that this whole thing is centered around Locutus, but it's not. All the prosecution is trying to state from what I've been asked and what it seems to me is that Locutus could be used in harmful ways in the future if Borg was doing these things before Locutus.
Right. And you do believe that the community contributor that has helped with the game is guilty of these charges, correct?
It's not uncommon for companies to hire hackers.
All right. Well, I'll pass it over to T5 because I'm getting quite nervous.
I'm good. I just want to make it clear that we're under the assumption that the witness has no actual understanding, or I should say awareness, if Borg's technology was even involved in MPO at that time, let alone what its functionality was. That was the initial and overall intent of the defense. And with that, I have no further questions.
Okay. I would ask Prefontaine if you want to do a redirect, but I'm concerned about time and redundancy.
I don't need to.
Prefontaine, are there any burning things you want to ask Spanky before we move on?
No, I'm confident in the questions that have been asked already.
All right. Spanky, thank you for your time. Who is your next witness, Prefontaine?
We'll call Lysander or Lysanda, depending on which handle you want to go by.
All right, now Lysander. Speaking statements. There you go. That's me. That is you. Prefontaine, you may begin your direct examination.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I was wondering if you could tell me about how long have you known Borg?
Lysander says, I believe I've known him for a little over a year.
And how would you characterize your relationship with him? Good, bad, indifferent?
Is that what I'm supposed to be reading?
Yes.
Yes, Kills. You may begin reading.
Lysander, indifferent.
Have you ever worked on any projects with Borg over that period of time?
Yes.
So, do you feel his work is reliable? It's good. He's good at what he does.
That depends on what you're referencing. In general, I think he is willing to put the effort in when the relevancy is immediate.
But you would say he's skillful. He knows what he's doing. When, as you said, when the effort or the relevancy requires it.
Yes.
So when this whole scandal broke, and you had some history of working with him in the past on projects, what were your original thoughts on everything that was transpiring?
This might be a minute for me to type up.
No problem. Hey, Thalmor, something I just thought of. If we ever have a typing witness in the future, maybe, especially if we know, because I knew this would be one of the long questions, we can get them maybe pre-recorded so we can copy and paste it and speed the process up.
Oh, like you mean do the direct examination ahead of time?
Yeah, like it'd be the equivalent of a grand jury statement, basically. But we could just kind of, at least, if there's going to be long questions, like I knew this would be a question that would require some typing, I could have effectively asked it ahead of time and he could have had it copy and pasted ready to go.
I'm open to that, yeah. As long as they can make it to trial and go through cross-examination, then I would be okay with that kind of, yeah, I'd be fine with it.
Just something for the future.
Yeah. I also need to work on the actual process of the trial itself, because that was a mess earlier, trying to for you to put in exhibits and then have the defense respond to each one. That was a mess. I'm going to have to rethink the whole thing. But Lysander has posted his response.
I find it an interesting ideal, to be honest. Borg definitely does really solid work in coding, so it wasn't something that shocked me that he could manipulate Locutus to do features not normally included in the bot. The MPO 150 billion thing did seem a bit like a joke initially, although I don't know many who carry on a joking convo for as long as was done in the logs.
I would ask another question, but I see more typing, so I'm just going to wait.
Kills.
It-
He said more.
It doesn't seem initially like something a very trustworthy community member would do, but Borg is also mainly loyal to his own ideals, which is why he doesn't allow people to claim offshore funds, even if they're for scammers. So it wasn't something out of the question for me. That's my answer.
So, in light of these allegations and your history and knowledge of Borg and your assessment of everything, did you take any specific actions to protect yourself moving forward?
Well, I did have my login info with Locutus. Which in hindsight was a dumb move regardless of who owned the bot.
So, did you take any specific action regarding your login info?
I changed the password. Aside from that, my account with him had been empty for a while, so nothing else needed to be done.
No further questions.
Decagon, do you want to do a cross-examination?
Most definitely. I do appreciate that you do credit the defendant with his very public and free work in the coding area. I do think it's a little objective that you are sort of assuming his manipulation into Locutus is also lumped with some kind of features that aren't included normally in the bot, and I really couldn't find anything in the discovery that the prosecution laid out in regards to like what this really was referring to. So I'll just move on. It's under my assumption that the MPO exploit is in regards to editing a tax rate. Editing tax rates that are no longer able to be edited in the game currently. Is it your understanding that that's also what this like 150 billion is in reference to? And 150 is a loose number. I know it's give or take.
I learned of the outside of the logs, so it was what I saw the public perception was. The logs didn't specifically include anything for or against that.
Okay. Are you aware of any actual screenshots of maybe conversations where Borg said to go ahead and edit tax rates or possibly send funds or anything that within reason would be arguable as a concrete involvement in regard to this exploit on Borg's behalf? Like, is there any actual screenshot showing Borg instructing or advising anyone in this master plan that you're aware of?
The sending of funds, I believe, was in item 3.
Okay, so in regards to item 3,
Or that's what I know of relating to the question.
yeah. I do see in item 3. It mentions Borg. I definitely see that. I'll let you finish typing. Sorry.
That was all. Don't worry.
Okay, so in regards to item 3 and the prosecution's discovery, it does indeed have many references. Well, not many. It has references to Borg, but what's worth noting is that none of these people were actually Borg. There's no actual screenshot from Borg. No one that's actually there's no mastermind plan that is really proven in item number 3. I don't see any message from Borg saying, this is what we should do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Unless I'm misreading item number 3, I mean, do you see anything like that concretely, beyond a reasonable doubt, shows his actual involvement, or is it just speculation from people who are banned from the game, from a former alliance that is more or less discredited and I would almost say hated in this community, which would be MPO?
Objection. The defense admitted that item 3, the Danzig name, was Borg, so they can't claim that Borg is not in those conversations. And also, item 3 was also taken before NPO was banned from the game, so they can't talk about things that happened before they actually happened.
The defense would like to counter across that with, although the defense does acknowledge that, yes, we are aware that Borg apparently had a different Discord handle, and we did see the actual messages upon request, which we do appreciate. None of them really showed any sort of formulating in regards to some kind of masterminded plan, and that's what we're trying to address. Is there anything actually here that shows Borg masterminding anything at all, or is it just people that are no longer part of this community that were banned saying it was him? We would sort of hope that there would be something sort of sticking Borg, our defendant, this person who's been a community contributor, to these charges in regards to just the MPO exploit in particular. But we're sort of struggling to find that. We don't see anything that shows, yes, Borg said step 1, do this, step 2, do that, step 3, do that, transfer funds to Mythic, Diana, Pascal. We don't really see any of that. We just see these other players, these other figures involved that are all consequently and ironically not part of the community at all.
Is there a question coming?
Just, is there any actual... item 3 actually show? Does it show a actual... where is this message from Borg? Where is the actual log or statement that shows his masterminded plan? That's sort of what we're trying to look for.
This witness isn't here to testify on any of that. The witness was here to testify on their knowledge of Borg and their reaction to when the news broke.
So their knowledge of Borg is based on them not being an MPO as well. Is that correct?
The witness stated they have only known Borg for a year. The incident with NPO happened prior then. He has no knowledge of this. There's no point to questioning him about what happened with NPO.
Okay. I just want to make it clear that this witness was not an MPO and had no actual insider information regarding really any of the events regarding item 3. It's speculation.
The objection is sustained. Move on, Decagon.
That's all. Unless Loon has anything to add.
No, I just want to
No, I don't
apologize
have
to my
anything to
witness
add.
for the harassment they had to take.
I didn't quite catch that.
What was that? What did you say, Prefontaine, just a second ago?
I was just apologizing to my witness for the insults and attacks they had to withstand for no reason.
Thank you.
I think we're done with Lysander then. Prefontaine, who's your next witness?
The prosecution's last witness is Mars.
Okay. I believe he can speak.
Yeah,
Mars,
what's
you
up?
are server unmuted.
I am.
Thank
All
you for
right,
joining us.
Prefontaine, go ahead and begin your examination.
Thank you, Judge. Mars, so as I've been asking most people tonight, can you tell us a little bit about your history with Borg? How long have you known him? How has that relationship grown or changed?
I don't think I really know Borg, but we've met each other like 2 years ago, maybe, or more. I don't.
Now, when all of this news broke, you became fairly involved in the conversation. Would that be accurate?
I posted it to the forums, if that's what you mean, and then a bunch of people messaged me about it, so I posted what I've gathered from others as well.
Are some of those items in the evidence, in the discovery evidence for today?
I haven't looked, to be honest. Evidence. Well, I basically posted the Spanky screenshots, also the NPO Gov screenshots, also the screenshots from Mythic chat.
So, what is your take on you said you had people messaging you? What are the messages you were receiving?
Well, to be honest, it all started as a half a joke. Like, I didn't really believe Borg would do that, going off the only Spanky's screenshots. I don't think anybody would really. But afterwards, I saw the forum post Alex made about the exploit, and I saw it was tied to Mythic, and I have friends in Mythic, so I thought I'd just ask what they know about the situation. And then I got the screenshot of Diana saying the same thing, and that's when I thought, this is strange. Like, one instance on its own doesn't mean much, but I don't understand why Diana would post that in Mythic chat. And afterwards, I asked NPO, and NPO stance, even 2 years after, is that they think Borg did that. So all taken together is not just Spanky's screenshots, you know.
So, when you are referencing Diana, you're referencing the Pascal apology letter, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
It all
So,
came together pretty randomly. Like, if I didn't make that forum post, all the information wouldn't have been in one place. Basically, I don't think any of it means much on its own, but everything together is different, you know.
okay. So you said you got the similar message from Mythic. Can you talk about what that message was or who was involved in it?
No. I saw Alex's thread on the exploit, and I saw Mythic mentioned there, and I thought I could just ask what they knew about the situation, because it's in everybody's best interest if the truth comes out, right? And yeah, they basically told me, yeah, man, there's also a screenshot of, like, also there wasn't a screenshot. I think they made the screenshot at the time, but they were like, yeah, we also have Diana saying Borg did it at the time. I don't know why it didn't come up until now. I don't think anybody had the interest to get involved, but I do, because I kind of hate what the bot did to the game at large.
And
Like, I feel I'm doing a community contribution more than anything, really.
so you dislike the bot, yes?
I do, yeah.
Do you
I
dislike
don't
Borg?
hate what Borg did to the game. I hate what the bot did, because I feel the whole game shifted to a bunch of players that don't know the game, don't like the game. Like, if you read the chat, everybody hates the game. Everybody that likes the bot He's like, nah, I don't like doing that in the game. I don't like doing that in the game. Well, that's the game, dude. I mean, I don't know.
So you don't like the bot, but you have no problem with Borg. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know. My problems with Borg are long gone, in a way. Like, no, anybody could have done the bot. I would feel the same.
Okay. So with you said you had friends in Mythic, and there's links to Mythic in Pascal's letter. There was talk about in the screenshots from Eric how he was asking if all of this was from raiding with Mythic, and he thought that 1 million in a resources would be a reasonable amount. He obviously was told he was wrong from the logs, and there seems to be this connection to Mythic. Can you help shed any light on that? Do you have any knowledge on that?
Not at all. All I got from that is that screenshot, and I doubt they really want to get involved, or they would have said something years ago, basically.
Would you're pretty active in the raiding community throughout the years in this game, correct?
Sure.
How good are your loot stats? Have you made billions in loot, millions in loot? Where are your numbers at?
I don't know, a few billion. I actually deleted a while ago. But I've always been involved in leadership. Like when raiding died for me, like it dies for everybody, I got involved with ARC and making raiding happen, basically.
How difficult would it be to gain 9 million in steel from your pirating expertise? If you had to just take a guess for if you were doing it solo, about how long would it take for you to raid 9 million in steel if you were getting super lucky even?
9 million in steel, what is that, like 40 billion or something? I mean, top one raiding has 10 billion in years, so
the funds that were allegedly being moved around, they were all close with the exception of uranium, which was 5 billion, still a very large number. They were in the ballpark of 10 billion, or sorry, 10 million in resources. So do you think it's feasible for were you ever a captain of ARG? Sorry, let me segue. Were you ever a captain in ARG or a Commodore, whatever the official head rank is?
yeah, I was leader in ARC.
So during your time as leader, do you know if your alliance ever rated that combined amount in one of those resources upwards of 10 million in either steel, gas, aluminum?
No, not that much. I think that's it's in the screenshot actually. That's what spooked Eric out as well, because it was too large of a number.
So according to the screenshot,
Even for NPO apparently. So
yeah, it's alleged
during those
that
days.
that's a very large number. As I pointed out in my opening statement, 2 years ago there was 50 million steel in the game, and to have rated 10 million steel, a fifth of the total steel in the game, and you being a leader for a period of time of one of the most notorious raiding alliances in the history of the game, never saw that amount come through the door of the entire alliance. Does
Yeah, no,
strike,
for sure.
yeah, it is very suspect. So just to reiterate,
No, but that number was like that number came from exploits because Alex said it came for exploits. Like he had made a forum post about it. And what's also weird, Alex didn't name the person he banned in the forum post at all, which I don't know if he usually does that, but he basically said, I banned someone over an exploit, then thanked Borg and whatever. Like he didn't specifically name Eric as the guy getting banned. I don't know what that means, but yeah.
I believe the defense and I both agreed that Eric's identity was related to being the individual who was banned for exploit cheating. one of the individuals involved.
Amongst several NPOs, yes.
Yes. So that is our current consensus of who Eric is.
Yeah, I think it was really like it went under the radar because there was a lot of other drama going on in the game at the time. And everybody kind of wanted NPO out, so nobody said anything.
Now, you've been around a long time. ARG has, at one point, had a version of a rating bot, correct? Or something that gave them beneficial targeting or notification of possible targets, correct?
Yeah, there was a raiding bot made by the creator of ARG. God damn it, I'm forgetting his name right now. Ogaden. But it was never used. It was like out of service for years. It was there. It always came up, but we never actually used it until Locutus came around, and it became clear we need to use a bot.
Did Borg ever try to sell you a bot?
I went to Borg to ask him for the bot for ARG as a whole, and I actually, from memory at least, I think I made my case like I don't want it for myself. I just want an equal playing field for everyone. Like if you're gonna come into the game, make an alliance and make a bot for it, and my guys rate less than your guys, but my guys have been playing for a lot more. I mean, that's not safe. So I went to him and asked him to just give it to ARG as well. And he said maybe for money and definitely not all the functions and stuff. But that was before Locutus became an official bot. Like it was just another bot.
So during this conversation, was there a cost associated with getting access to this bot?
I think he said something about money, but I didn't want to pay money on principle. We actually had some talks in ArgGov at the time. I think, I don't know, maybe we talked about how much money it would be feasible to pay for it, but it was a bad idea. Like how could we, like we don't tax people, it couldn't have worked basically. At one point we considered actually paying it from our pockets, like our leadership guys pulling the money and just paying him so our guys can use it as well, but I don't know, it never happened.
Do you remember if this conversation happened before or after the NPO scandal?
Nah, I don't know. I have it in my history. I think it was likely before the NPO scandal, yeah.
So he was trying to gain money from a bot.
Yeah, but it was in bad taste. And I actually remember making my case that he should give it just so everything is cool within the games. I felt it was an unfair advantage. And after he refused to pay, he refused to give it and kind of hinted at, or I think he flat out said it would cost money. I actually reported it on the forums because I felt it was unfair. Even before it became an official bot for the game, I felt it was unfair, yeah.
Okay. No further questions at this time.
Decagon, would you like to do a cross-examination?
Yes. I do actually, I would like to refer anyone who's willing to take a look at the chat channel. I dumped quite a few pieces of the serious evidence, which was made public early on when the trial first started, in regards to Mars and Borg's relationship. If you want to look closely, there's really a clear, in my opinion, a clear-rooted grounding of, I wouldn't want to call it dislike, but I really find it hard to find another term to label it as. I mean, it's just.
What's your point? I use swear words.
Objection.
Well, the point is a bias.
Wait.
I can use swear
I
words with you
agreed
right
to
now.
the Alex. I agreed to the Alex post. These other bits of evidence are slanderous against my witness, and he is not on trial here.
I would actually counter that they're slanderous against the defendant from the witness. I'm not trying to insinuate anything. I'm just showing public I mean, really, these are just screenshots from the witness. So I don't know if we're going to discredit these or not, but if we are, I would ask that we discredit the witness entirely. I do believe entirely that it shows a. I mean, you have one screenshot where, tired of the game, do the clicks bother you? Go ahead and use Locutus. Just message Borg and find out how, and then not much later you have him on trial, following along with the prosecution's allegations against Borg. It's confusing for all of us, I know.
It's not confusing, man. It's a joke post by me saying, literally, you have to deploy your sentience to play the game, and if you don't want to, you can use Borg's bot, which is what I believe right now as well. So it aged really well, basically.
So I do want to ask you, Mars, are you aware of who Alex is as far as PNW is concerned?
No, the report wasn't a joke. The report was a joke.
Like Alex, the administrator. Like, you are aware of who Alex is? Like, Montania, like the creator of the game. I'm assuming that we're all vaguely aware of who he is.
Is condescension an objection? Because I would like to make.
I'm not being condescending.
No.
I
it's
promise
fine.
I'm trying.
I'm aware. I'm aware. Go ahead.
So, do you think? I mean, he's obviously able to code. He's aware of how to, I would assume. I'm not too savvy, but do scripts or formatting, coding, any type of stuff that would be like back end in regards to a game, such as Politics and War. Considering that we're playing the game, is it safe to assume that he knows how to code?
Not good enough since we have Locutus.
Oh,
but
that's
go
great.
ahead.
I'm glad you said that. So, not good enough. Not good enough is the perfect rebuttal, because I would actually implore people to look. Let me see if I can find it. If you look in chat now, you'll see. I mean, Borg has been actually credited quite a bit in regards to helping Alex.
Yeah. You keep saying that, but it's not mutually exclusive. Okay.
Well, I'm just painting a picture.
How are you saying that? You can help with the game. Okay, let's take it another way. Would Borg develop the Locutus if he wasn't a player?
That's speculation. I mean, I have no idea what he would do.
If he's in the chat, he can answer himself.
He does, but he's not currently a witness on stand, and he's not being questioned. So, furthermore, what I want to point out is that, are we really going to discredit the game's creator, who is actually crediting and validating our defendants' contributions and debugging to the game? Like, we're going to go ahead and discredit that entirely.
No, I wish he just did that without taking personal advantage.
But does he, though? Have you actually... Do you have anything to show that, is what I wonder. Do you have anything that actually shows this advantage? Where's this advantage? Does he have a massively high city count, maybe like Alpha, the leader of the former Alpha Alliance, who was indeed a multi-farm? Do you have anything showing some massive holdings? Do you have anything? Is there any actual evidence that shows beyond a reasonable doubt that our defendant is indeed taking advantage of the system?
Is there anyone in this chat who believes Borg didn't gain advantage from Locutus?
I just asked what this advantage is. What is this advantage? That's all I asked.
They believe Borg didn't get any advantages from creating the bot in the game as a player against other players. Like us, we are the other players.
I sincerely ask, what is this massive advantage?
What do you believe? Do you believe he got any advantage, or you don't?
I believe that his bot is advantageous, absolutely. And I'm grateful that it's public. It's public and anyone can use it. And it's saddening that those who, in my opinion, that those who do not want to use it are almost being defamatory in this regard towards him.
Okay. Do you believe he got more advantages than someone who doesn't have an admin panel for Locutus for making it as a player?
That's neither here nor there. I really couldn't answer that. I know he's one of the few traders that provides his bot publicly.
Actually obvious. What?
Is it obvious?
I think the answer is obvious, and you don't want to answer that. I mean,
Anybody can use this bot though. Like that's the kicker, is that it is indeed public. Anybody can use it.
yes, but there's only one bot with unlimited API and everything Locutus does, which is
So,
established.
Can you show this actual? Can you show this?
Show what?
I think I do believe it's fair to say
No,
that,
I think it's
that
common
you
sense.
and others just have a genuine dislike towards automation or bots. And I think there's a misunderstanding as to what automation
No,
could
what
be.
you don't.
People have to type. Well, I'm still talking. So there is.
Okay, sure.
People do have to indeed type these commands in for them to work. There really isn't a sentience among Locutus. It doesn't just automatically do things. It's people typing commands, and I think I don't know if it's a fear or like a nervousness in regards to typing these commands. Maybe I don't know if they look intimidating. I'm not insinuating. I promise that, but Borg's bot is 100% public, and I've never really seen any case where he's actually withheld it really from anybody. Some of the features are premium in that regard, which would be like the raid command, which I believe Space Invaders was more or less quote unquote reliant on as a bloodline, as I think we saw earlier. But
isn't that an example?
Well, an example of a bot creator that just doesn't want full functionality of what you would consider, as far as I'm concerned, as like an abusive. I mean, it's a little ironic.
And you can't understand why, if you're on the other side, it bugs you. Like,
so do you want Borg to give this magical command to everybody, or should he not be? Because I'm a little.
I don't want Borg to
confused.
do anything. I want Alex to do something.
Okay, but here we are with Borg on trial.
Yeah.
So you can see the conundrum that we're in, where Borg is sort of damned if he does and damned if he doesn't.
Okay, if anybody's gonna do something, it's gonna be Alex, not Borg. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
I do think what Borg is doing is a general, in my opinion, it's a general
good.
I think good for the community.
You don't understand what I'm saying. I have no problem with all the good things the bot does. I have a problem with all the bad things it brings out, like the fact that there's one player who can do more based on his coding and his relationship with Alex than me, that I'm just a guy opening PNW, and that it got half the community saying it hates the game, but it loves the bots. Like have the game at this point is like, man, I don't like clicking that, and I don't like clicking that. I just like one command in Discord that does everything, okay? But that's not the game. Like, we played another game up to a point until the game changed to Discord commands. And that's okay with you because you're on the other side, you're friends with Borg, and okay for a bunch of people in the game, but it's not okay for us. And what if Borg could do something is be above these things, and I don't think he's above these things.
I do respect your stance.
I don't believe that going by his behavior and what he says and what he does and how he moves in the game, like politically and all that. I don't believe it, basically.
Okay.
If he was above it, I would be the first to say, man, that's fucking great. I wish you were Alex,
So I would like to ask. Okay, I do. I can understand your point of view. I honestly can. To an extent, I did grow up with Locutus. Whenever I first started the game, I started with Locutus, and it's hard, but I can actually understand from the outside looking in. But I do want to ask, where would it stop? Are we going to go to Rose's bot? Are we going to go to TKR's bot? Will we go to every alliance's bot and demand them to?
I don't know what the relevance is on this case at this point. It's been going
on.
We're
witch hunting Locutus. That's what the relevance is. We're witch hunting Locutus instead of.
Locutus is not on trial. Borg's actions using the bot are.
What are those? What are Borg's actions using Locutus?
Logging in to someone else's account to change alliance permission sets, to possibly using the bot to exploit NPO. Those are the two major things on trial. It is not how my witness feels about the bot. That is not on trial.
Then why is your witness here? Does he have any relevance into those two accusations?
He has experience on rating to verify that the amounts that were being transferred during NPO were completely above what could have been done through rating at Mythic at the time. Largely, that is why he is here.
I would like to further rebuttal if this is some grand accusation, then why didn't you bring it up before? Has this never been an issue prior to this current issue?
You're asking me?
Nope. No, I'm sorry. I'm asking Pre.
This is the investigation and trial is happening now. If it
We're
happened,
bringing up logs from 2 years ago, but I'm curious as to why this trial has taken apparently 2 years to take place.
Again, let me explain it to this guy. Dude, all the pieces of information haven't been together until now. They all existed separately. Anybody looking at just Spanky's logs with Borg saying, I hacked for 150 billion would laugh it off. I would as well, okay? But take Diana's thing, take NPO's thing, and it's something else. That's why we're here right now, and that's why it's 2 years later. It should have been that day when Alex banned Eric for this. I don't know. Maybe it should. The issue with the whole thing, I think, is nothing really new can come out of this. Like, Alex can bring any new information, can't look and find something new. Like the exploit itself was done by an unknown third party, which Alex banned Eric for. So what we're arguing is it wasn't Eric, it was Borg, as per his own words and others around him. I hope
Correct.
That's more clear now.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is the words of someone who's no longer part of the community, who's unable to show actual evidence, in my opinion, that shows actual guilt and tying of this quote-unquote masterminded plan that Borg has apparently acted on. That's all I want. I just want to see something that shows Borg actually advising these people on how to do this. And it's unfortunately the only thing that we're apparently not able to see.
yeah, but we do have an admission of guilt saying he spawned in 150 billion framed NPO. Let's completely ignore that bit of evidence.
Well, yeah, because after that, I mean, we also don't know.
Yeah, let's completely ignore that because it destroys your client.
Does it? Does it to the point where 2 years later, supposedly the game's creator himself was magically not able to find this? Like, where is this? It wasn't Borg. Borg didn't do this.
Were you not just trying to paint a picture about how bad the admin was and you couldn't do it without Borg? So you're now trying to say that your client could not hold one over to him due to his ineptness? Because that sounds
can you actually show beyond a reasonable
you are
doubt?
Trying to paint.
Can you show beyond a reasonable doubt that he's involved or guilty?
He said it himself. I spawned in $150 billion and framed NPO. That is all you need. He himself, under no coercion, said it to brag, to show off, to try to gain favor, to try to impress someone when they were having a who can have a bigger dick in the terms of acting like a scumbag measurement contest.
This is a wildly large objection. If he said he rode a unicorn to work, would we also be submitting this as part of the evidence or no?
Did he have a 30-minute conversation about riding the unicorn to work? Probably not, so...
I'd like to know what the deleted portion of that group chat actually said. But no one seems
so
to
I do, but your client deleted the evidence.
And your witness isn't saying it. My client deleted everything, but you're trying to spin it as him. My client deleted everything.
My current witness has no involvement with the logs. How are you trying to blame it on my witness?
So, again, Borg deleted everything because there's offset conversation, and instead of leaking it publicly, which is probably frowned upon.
Stop.
I'm good. I'm going to keep going. So, he deleted everything.
Before the chat was leaked.
Okay, because he was under the assumption that you would leak it, which indeed you did.
No, exactly. He was afraid that I would leak it eventually, which I did.
No, I think
you don't leak those things if you're not fucking worried about it getting out. Case in point, like end of story. You don't delete
So,
that shit if you're not
was
worried
Borg
about
worried
it.
about every single part
Don't
of that
delete
log? He was
shit.
worried about getting leaked.
When has Borg ever deleted a joke? He
That's
doesn't. He doesn't have 30-minute conversations on jokes either. Like, that's end of story. Like,
it's not the
fucking
end of the story. That's why we're on trial. I want to point out that every
admitted.
message in that group chat is deleted. So was he worried about
No,
every
no.
single
Every
message in that
message
group chat
isn't
being deleted?
deleted. My half is there. Borg's half
Okay.
is deleted.
So what I'm trying to ask is
So
every
bring Borg
sentence
up
that
here,
Borg
then.
has said,
Bring Borg
is
up
he,
here, and he can tell
thank
you
you,
what the other half said. Let me hear
thank
it
you.
from his fucking mouth.
Are we seriously are we going to really say that Borg was worried that every message in the group chat was going to get leaked? Every message in that group chat that he deleted, everything. Because
He was
in
worried
case
about
no one
that
knows,
20 to
every
30 minute
message Borg sent is
conversation.
gone.
He was worried about that 20 to 30-minute conversation
Is
where
that
he
the only thing that's
admitted
deleted?
guilt. I mean, he deleted everything else after that.
Everything else.
Right.
Everything in
When it
that
was
group chat from Borg is
publicly
deleted. So
leaked.
we're going to only focus on that and act as if that was the primary focus when everything is deleted.
What's your point? You're bringing up irrelevant shit.
My point is you're
As
trying
he's done
to
this whole
paint a
fucking
picture
thing.
that he specifically
No,
did all
no,
that when he deleted
Every
everything.
time you come on here,
guys,
talk
if
to
I
the
may.
witnesses, it's been
Decagon is, if I may, Decagon is under the false impression that this trial could lead to concrete evidence of this happening. This trial can only lead to us making our minds about this thing, nothing else, because the whole thing is on the back end. Like, how can we bring up code of exploits happening and IP addresses and like that can't happen. Like, we're not gonna get there either way. All that can happen after this is the community making up its own mind about things
There's
based
something
on
I have
what
to
we
address.
know.
The public log that everyone has about this group chat is when Borg first initially started deleting everything. So while it does look, this is yes, please let me finish. Please let me finish, please. Is everything in that group chat besides the part that Borg deleted, is it still there? Or is everything that Borg said gone?
everything that Borg said in the group chat currently is gone because he
Okay,
deleted
that
it.
is extremely important and misleading to everybody to not know.
Well,
Everything Borg said is gone, but we're only focusing on the one part to try to frame a picture that he indeed tried to hide this part. He deleted everything.
3 neutral observers.
He deleted everything.
Flavy, Jaden, and Kills Bob. All 3 of them came into the chat and watched Borg purge everything he said as Jaden downloaded the fucking logs to fucking see exactly what was there. The only thing that was ever deleted in that chat before I leaked it was Borg's bit about NPO. You don't delete jokes and you don't have 30-minute conversations about them either. End of story.
It's not the end of the story. It's he deleted everything. Why would he bother doing it then? Why would he delete everything, in your opinion?
Probably to cover up his guilt. The same thing guilty people do all the time when they cover up evidence. Wild concept, I know.
Well, I would take your opinion on that one. I don't really see the relevance in why Borg would delete everything, and we would only focus on that one sliver.
Why are you speculating on what your client would do?
I didn't. That's what he did do. He did delete everything.
You're suspecting on his motivations to it, not that he did or did not do it.
I would say the prosecution is speculating on why he deleted
that.
Wait
until you have your defendant on the stand to actually question and find out what his motives are and reasons for, rather than speculating for him. Can we please get back to Mars?
Order.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I've said my piece. If there's any other questions.
Okay, let's
I have a
deep breath. Okay, so do you have any final questions for Mars, Decagon?
No, I do not. Thank you, Mars.
No problem, guys. Enjoy.
I have a question still for Cross.
You want to do a redirect, Prefontaine?
Yeah, for Mars, real quick.
Real quick, go right ahead.
Go ahead.
Do you consider being able to log into other nations' and change permission sets a benefit of being in control of the bot?
I think the whole bot situation is fucked up beyond that. But
Okay.
yeah, that's not good.
So there is a benefit to being the owner of the bot.
I think the benefits are way beyond that and really hard to put into words unless you're writing a book on.
But that's why I'm giving a specific case. I'm ignoring the rest of them now, but that is a benefit. Would you agree?
I can't do that, basically. So I don't think other people
No
can
further
do that.
questions.
All right. Is that all your witnesses, Prefontaine?
Yeah, the prosecution rests.
Oh, you rest. Okay. All right. So that was the first half of the trial. Now we're moving on to the defense, and they may present their evidence and their witnesses. How would you like to begin, Decagon?
Okay, where should I post this? Chat?
Wait, hold on. Wait, stop.
I
No.
didn't do anything.
I believe the jury wanted a recess real quick so everyone can catch their breaths, refill the drinks, use the restroom, load their firearms, get their pitchforks, whatever they want to do. Jury members, how long of a recess did you want? Give me some numbers. Because it's getting late, our recorder is getting tired. 15 seconds. 10 minutes sounds good. All right. 10-minute break. We will resume at 12:24. 12:27, I should say. 12:27. Recess begins now.